Welcome to the BrightWord Books Podcast, where stories find their voice and authors share the worlds that they've created. I'm your host, Chris Dabbs, and today we're excited to welcome back a returning guest, author Kelly Mowers. She joins us again to talk about her powerful and poetic book, In a Multiverse of Infinite Possibilities, We Must Be Happy Somewhere. Now, this collection takes us on an extraordinary journey across love, loss, and self-discovery, as seen through the lens of infinite timelines. With heartfelt verses and vivid imagery, Kelly explores how passion, heartbreak, and hope weave together in a story that transcends lifetimes. Stay tuned as we dive into the inspirations behind the poems, the universal themes of love and resilience, and the evolution of Kelly's creative journey.
A love that has burned out, or a love that exists, but circumstances have torn them apart. And this layer would lead to the other layers of love through loving themselves, healing, and showing the need of speaking out to try and help others, which would in return show the layer of raising the vibration of the earth and creating a better world. So in my mind, they were all connected. How I was going to reach the reader, I think, was first through the couple.
Yeah, it's quite interesting because many authors who write about the multiverse, as you mentioned, they lean on narrative prose, yet you chose poetry, which is quite interesting, isn't it? I mean, what made poetry the most natural vessel for this story?
It's funny because I'm actually a fiction writer, but I love reading and writing poetry. And I thought telling a story through poems that could read like a short novel would be interesting and fun to try. And the idea of each moment being a picture of a moment or a piece of that story that could be read alone and it could make sense, or a poem that could be taking place in a past life, just a glimpse, or a realization of knowing them on another timeline and how they converge momentarily. But I was hoping that when the reader zooms out from each poem, that they would see that all the pieces and pictures created a connected piece of writing. That was my hope. Like I wanted to try something different.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely different, isn't it? And it's really good because, your poems carry both vulnerability and resilience, which is great. And do you write first from like raw emotion, or do you approach it with a more structured vision in mind?
Oh my gosh. Well, structure is not my strength. um, I I usually have just an idea. It could be, I'm going to write about this bench. I'm going to write about Orion. I might have loose ideas of what I want to write about and where it might lead, but I consider myself to be kind of a wanderer when I'm writing. I love to see where the story will go. I think I love learning, loving, and regretting with my characters. I feel like I'm learning with them. Uh, let's see. I'm often surprised by what they do, but I love this because sometimes it feels almost like automatic writing. Like they're writing through me. That's what makes writing to me to be exciting and why I love to write so much. I think if I had structure where I I love that for people who can do it. I think it's amazing. And they actually finish a lot more books than people with no structure. But I feel like I would miss out on a lot because the story and the characters take me to different places than I never would have thought of it most of the time. So
Yeah. Well, no, exactly. the creative side of it is
Yeah.
as you say, it's interesting that you say about the auto writing kind of thing, because I think I've spoken to other people that say the same kind of thing. And it is it for me, I don't understand that because I'm not as smart as you guys. Being authors, it's just fantastic. But being able to just write and it kind of flows, yeah, I'd love to be able to do that. I think that I would have to have too much structure. So I think you're very lucky to do that. Well, not very lucky, you're very talented, blessed to do it. But whilst you're doing all of this, of course, it becomes personal, doesn't it? So were there particular poems that felt, well, too personal at first to include, but later you decided that, they were quite essential to the collection?
Oh my gosh. I think I felt like all of them. I don't know if all writers, but I think a lot of them, they they feel like there are elements of truth and some are completely made up. But no matter what, it is our feelings, and they're there, and they're raw, and they're vulnerable, and they can be seen in every poem, whether or not they actually really happened. I think the feelings become real and the characters become real, and it makes it hard to put the poems and the writing out into the world. But yes, there were a few poems that had some truth that would be recognized by some people if
Mhm.
they read them. And it did cause me to pause, because some of the things were not my story. But the book, I realized, needed these poems because they were the stepping stone to the next. And if these people do read them, I think that it would be like a signal to them that they were very much part of this story and that our connection mattered. So that's why I decided to include all of them.
Hmm. That's quite a nice thing, actually. The connection mattered. That's
Yeah.
the point, isn't it? At the time, yeah, it's interesting. And funnily enough, your narrator finds comfort in the idea of love existing across infinite timelines. I mean, like we were talking about earlier on with the multiverse and all of the timelines. I mean, do you personally resonate with that belief, or was it more of a literary device?
Um, well, I guess it would be both. Looking around this timeline, we struggle to hold on to love. If you look at the percentages of marriages ending in divorce, if we think about how young love is, they fall in love easily and it ends quickly. People lose each other in wars, through illnesses, through stupidity, things that we should have said or done. I
Mm.
think the regrets of lost love weigh heavily on us. And it's nice to imagine timelines where love wins and happiness is found. I would love to jump onto one of those timelines, and I think I do believe that there are timelines playing out. There are versions of me where things did work out differently. Yeah.
Which is, yeah, I like that as well. I think that's nice to think about, actually. Yeah, all those times when you just wish that, yeah, that particular love had gone in a particular direction. Yeah, I like that. I'm sure our listeners really like that as well. And as you've been saying, throughout the book, there's loss and there's heartbreak. It does come in there, and yet there's always an undercurrent of hope. And I can tell by the way that you speak that that's you. That's coming from you. So how do you personally navigate that tension in your own life?
Ah, let's see. That's um I remember a conversation I had with a friend, and I was like, I see the change. It's the world's getting better, and people are waking up, and we had a meditation, and people from around the world participated in it, and we raised the Schumann resonance, or the earth's heartbeat. And I think we're finally going to see the change. And I was so excited. And he just shook his head and said, "No, I'm sorry, but things are going to get a lot worse before they can get better." And at that moment, I just shook my head and told him, you'll see, you'll see. I do carry the vision of what our world can be within me. And I know there are times where you can drown in everything that's happening nowadays. It's terrifying and sad, and more people are killed around the world in wars and religious conflicts. And I know that if we focus on that, people say, like, if you give all your attention to that, that's the reality you create. I I agree a little bit. I do agree with that, but I also think ignoring the problems of the world isn't helping anything either. Like, yes, we can have these visions of how we want the world to be, but we also have to work, and we need to form the connections throughout the world that would create this better world. Um, yeah. So I think that's how.
That's it. Yeah, 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 and that makes complete sense as well. I see what you mean. Again, it's being positive, isn't it? And thinking, that we can change things. And unfortunately, the person that you were talking to, kind of makes sense. Saying it's going to get worse before it gets better. That we've always got to hope, haven't we? We've
Yes,
always got to
definitely, definitely.
So this is where it comes in, right? So if you could send a message to an alternate version of yourself, one living in another reality, what do you think you'd want to say to them?
Well, if it was, sorry, if it was a younger version of me, I think I would want to shout, like, wake up and embrace your mission, embrace who you are. Don't let anyone tell you that you're strange
Mm.
and try to shut you down. But I think to any version of me, young or old, past, present, or future, these are important messages that we learn to love ourselves, that we embrace who we are and love who we are. So
Yeah,
that would be my message. Yep.
yeah, and a really good one as well. I mean, that's the most important kind of message to have, isn't it? Again, it's be yourself and love yourself, as it were. Don't, yeah, just don't hate yourself, right? Be
Yeah.
happy, right?
Yes.
So, with your readers over books that you've written and everything else, have they ever shared with you how the book made them reflect on their own relationships or choices? And any of those stories stayed with you that you can share with us?
Well, it's funny, like, most of the readers that I've spoken with, they are like just like consumed with the multiverse. I mean, they're just like, oh, it's so amazing. So, like, so if I decide this, will I jump to a different, and we have lots of discussions on the multiverse. But I was hoping that more would talk about, like, how can we make a difference in the world, and how can we help those that are starving or searching for a place to live. um I think the one story that stayed with me was there was a young girl who said that she saw in it regret. She saw two characters that have that should have regrets. They were on the perfect trajectory. They were going in the right direction. They were on the same soul mission, and yet it they they blew it up. And so we had a long discussion about that, and it turns out that, like, she has very strong regrets about certain relationships. And that's the story that comes to my mind when you ask me that.
Mm. So, yeah, again, it comes that I think that's what this comes to, doesn't it? Having those regrets and then thinking about the multiverse. But it's interesting when you say that that everyone talks to you about the multiverse, right? Like we did, talking about sliding doors or the
Yeah.
actual physics of it, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to thinking about no, 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 hang on a second, we're talking about universal emotions here, right?
Yes. Right.
So this is the
No,
point of
no, that's fine. That's fine. I was, I think that a lot of the readers, they just skip past the part of wanting to work on the societal problems.
it.
And so that just means that for volume two, I have to make sure that it's more pertinent, more in their faces, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, well, yeah, I see what you mean. So in other words, if you change your focus slightly,
Yeah.
in order to, yeah, well, it's a completely different story. Story, it's a completely different thing, isn't it? A completely different topic. But the way that you've woven it together, which is great. And we were talking about universal emotions just then. So many of your poems obviously touch on that. I mean, do you think that readers are drawn more to the infinite possibilities of the multiverse, as we say, or to the deeply human themes of love and loss? We've obviously spoken about people being interested in the multiverse, but do they turn around and then start thinking about things a bit deeper?
Um, I think that they are initially drawn to the themes of love and loss, and they definitely identify with it because I think everyone has had, you know, situations where they have loved and it didn't work out, or they've lost someone. Um, I definitely think that the readers are much more interested though in the multiverse. I mean, I maybe because also the ending ended with more questions than answers, and some people wanted it to end very happy. And I said, but it, you needed to tell the truth that there's so much work that needs to be done within ourselves and within the world that it couldn't end like a fairy tale. And I think this is maybe a lot of the readers have commented on that, like why did it end like that? I wanted them to get back together. And I said, well, let's see what happens in volume two. But it was really about needing to work on ourselves. That's what I really wanted everyone to realize. And that then we can enjoy the ideas of the multiverse as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So how do you think that, you could make your work sort of, or how do you think it has influenced people in the way that they think about happiness, which is what we've been talking about, really. This is what it's about, right? I mean, do they, can you do, well, how, I'm trying to really encapsulate this. How can you make your work influence the way people think about their happiness, but beyond just, the multiverse lens? Does that make sense?
Yes, yes. Uh, um, okay, just give me a moment. Well, I guess like I was just saying, I hope everyone realizes that you need to find the happiness within yourself. You can't find it within someone else. I mean, you can briefly, but only if you found it within yourself first.
Mm.
And it's easy to move around to new places and you say, "Oh, this is amazing. I feel so much happiness because everything's new." But you need to stop and you need to sit with yourself. You need to heal yourself. You raise your vibration and then you add your vibration to the collective and then you help raise the frequency. And I believe love works best when you have two individuals who are healed or are at least working to heal and are happy with themselves first. Um, it doesn't mean that you can't raise your frequency when you're hurt or unhappy. I actually think this is where the journey begins for many, that we search for happiness, we search for healing. And it's when you realize that there's so much more out there. There are like other beautiful aspects of this world. And we only need to remember that. We need to let go of fear, which is extremely hard, and see where this adventure takes you. And then I think that in these discoveries is where we find happiness.
and that's where I guess the frequencies go into sync, right? And then that would be our happiness because we're
Yes.
both working together towards each other's goals and everything else. Sounds lovely. I'll mention that to my wife in a minute. And so,
Okay.
and so
Sounds good.
we've been together for some time, so I think that we're probably resonating somewhere. But yeah, I can see that. We have to work towards these things, don't we? And the thinking about happiness, I think, is a good way to go to start on this. So looking back now, after sitting with your book through multiple conversations, has your own understanding of its meaning changed since you first wrote it?
I think it continues to surprise me, which might be funny for some people to understand, like, how could the writer be surprised? And I don't think I can actually put into words how amazing it is to see the book through other people's eyes and comments. And I was being vulnerable, sharing ideas that fascinate me, things that haunt me, and remembering life's missions and everything we need to do to move into the new earth. But the interviews and the conversations with readers have shown me that there were other meanings in telling this story that I hadn't fully realized. And I like to think it means different things to different people, and that's important for any work of art, any writing. And I don't know if the meaning has changed, but it has definitely become more expansive than I had originally thought it was.
Oh well, that's quite rewarding then, isn't it, for an author? You know,
Yes.
I like that. So as this is your third time on the podcast, what's one of these new layers of your book that you wish more people would actually notice and reflect on now?
Well, like, as we've been saying, that everyone loves the multiverse, and I love the multiverse, and the idea that our choices create new timelines. But I would love if everyone also reflected on how we can help with the societal problems that we see everywhere around us.
Mm.
And yes, I think that we should always be looking for that timeline where everything works out. But ultimately, we're here trying to help this world, and if we can't help ourselves, this is why I think we may need to reflect more on this. We need to reflect more on how can we create happiness within us. Um, that would be great if we could add that layer to the multiverse, of course.
Yeah, yeah. As you say, volume two is approaching, right?
Yes,
So,
yes, yes.
so here we go. Here's a question for you, right? I don't know how you're going to answer this one, but I've been thinking about it, and I don't know. But if your book could exist as a physical artifact in just one alternate universe, what kind of world would you hope that it belonged to, and why? Love that question.
Wow. Um, okay, so it's a physical artifact.
Yeah.
Um, well, I hope that it exists in an alternate universe where that world has moved beyond war in the name of land, religion, greed, beyond a world where only a small percentage of the population has the wealth, while most of the population is struggling or starving. Um, I hope that it would be in a world where there wouldn't need to be peace talks and resolutions between different religious groups, and that refugee camps didn't exist because there was no need for them. And maybe it would be an alternate universe like Dolores Cannon. Have you read her?
No, no.
No. Oh,
Explain.
you would love her writing.
Mhm.
Um, she talks about a new earth. And if this book were a physical artifact there, I hope it would be in the library under this section of maybe a sad nightmare that people on an alternate timeline would see as a fictional dystopian tragedy because
Yeah.
we fixed it. We're on a course where in this universe the problems we're having now, they don't exist.
Yeah. That is a great answer. Love it. So basically, what you're saying is that it exists in a timeline or a plane that has all of our problems sorted out. So we don't have,
Yes.
so they don't have to worry about it. And so they read the book and they go, "Wow, look at this thing! Look at this place." I understand what you mean. Exactly. Dystopian nightmare. Brilliant. Excellent. Kelly, do you know what? We've run out of time. We could talk
Oh
for hours.
no.
I know.
Okay.
I know. So there we go. So unfortunately, that wraps up today's episode of the BrightWord Books podcast. Really a heartfelt thank you to Kelly Mowers. Thank you so much, Kelly, for joining us once again and sharing your insights on a multiverse of infinite possibilities. We must be happy somewhere. And now that we've spoken about the multiverse, I'm pretty sure that's the case. So your words have reminded us that love and hope could endure across every version of ourselves, even in the multiverse. So listeners, if you've enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode and share it with fellow book lovers, of course. But don't forget overall to pick up a copy of Kelly's book. It's a journey you won't want to miss. And of course, we live in the dystopian nightmare, but we need to change it to that nice idyllic place where the book exists in reality. So until next time, this is the BrightWord Books podcast, where every story matters and every author has a voice. Kelly, it's been great talking to you today, and I can't wait to talk to you again soon.
Thank you so much. I've loved our conversation.
Brilliant. Have a great time. Have a great day and take care. Bye-bye.